It's no secret that I love a hot hatchback, but as we are humans and we love to categorize things, we've gone beyond that now and we have started building hyper hatches. Now, I'm not really sure I know what that means, but in this video I'm going to talk to you about 5 hyper hatches, or at least cars that I would consider to be hyper hatches, i.e. the absolute top end of the hot hatchback spectrum, that deliver you either incredible power or exceptional performance way above and beyond what you expect out of a hot hatch. How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to one of my favourite topics. Don't forget that I'm in the UK, so prices in other countries may be different, and when you buy any second-hand car, maintenance, repairs, insurance rates, all the good stuff is important to remember. If you enjoy this video and want to see it at a lower price range, I've been looking at potential hyper hatches in the kind of 25k region, so if you want to see that video, hit me up, 1,000 likes and I'll make that video. If you're new here and want to see 2 videos every single week, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Most hyper hatches that take on the Nürburgring in an attempt to become the fastest front-wheel drive cars around there come in a top-spec version of an existing sporty hot hatch, some of which you'll see later in this video. The FK8 Honda Civic Type R, however, is not one of those cars. It briefly held the lap record around the ring with a time of 7 minutes 43 seconds, and it's still the second fastest front-wheel drive car in history to go around the ring, behind a car that comes later in this video, and that's production cars, by the way. The FK8 is the 5th generation Civic Type R, though it's based on the 10th generation Civic platform, and honestly, of all of the cars on this list, it might be the single most impressive, which is very interesting considering when new in 2017 was also the cheapest car on the list. It hosts a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 that produces 315 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.6 seconds. Not particularly rapid, and there are definitely quicker and more powerful hot hatches out there, but they can't do anything close to what this can do on track. Match that trackability with the hugely aggressive looks, with the many aero and cooling features around the car like the splitter, massive wing and bonnet scoop, and the car certainly has all the right parts of a hyper hatch formula. Now, of course, those extra parts are for real and not just show, evidenced further by the fact that a lot of the Larry bits are carbon fibre to make sure the car remained light despite its hefty size. All in, it weighs just under 1.4 tonnes, which is around the same as you'll get in a 718 Cayman S as a reference point, so it is well into sports car figures, and it's more than 3 seconds faster around the ring as well. These are depreciated by about 6.7% on average per year since their release. As adjusted for inflation, they were worth around £36,000 in 2017, but you'll now find them for as little as £24,000, though in general we'll be looking at around the £27,000 mark. The main problem I can find with these is the gearboxes, as some owners have complained about crunchy changes between first and second, but outside of that, check to see how badly thrashed your Type R is before you purchase. Next up we have an Audi, but not just any old Audi, one with a turbocharged inline-5 engine and all-wheel drive, the perfect formula for a Quattro. It's not the hallowed Audi Quattro though, instead I'm talking about the Audi RS3, specifically 2nd generation's final facelift, which is based on the 3rd generation A3. It gets a 2.5 litre turbocharged inline-5 engine that produces 394 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4 seconds, making it the 2nd quickest car on the list, which is a key reason why I'd call it a hyper hatch. 4 seconds to 60 is pretty ridiculous for a car that you can fit 5 people and luggage into, plus it was tested at the Nürburgring 2 before release. I know that some people say that cars built around the ring are worse road cars, but what can you expect from something with the name hyper attached to it? It's supposed to be a tool for a purpose, and that purpose is going very, very fast. I personally love the wider and more aggressive design on these too. It gives me 1980s vibes with the wheel arches and the overall look, just updated to the modern era. The interior is nice too. It's not a million miles off the Audi R8's interior, but then at the same time, most uprated VW Group cars aren't too dissimilar to the R8 on the inside. Most don't also effectively have an R8 engine cut in half though, which is what this gets. You also get the obligatory sports seats, and the dashboards are also really simple and aggressive with more premium materials used. It is heavier than some of the other cars on this list though, coming in at over 1,500 kilograms, hence it's not quite as punchy around tracks as a couple of the other cars. It was the more recent generation that set the absolute compact car lap record around the Nürburgring. This is also depreciated by 6.7% per year like the Civic, as it was £48,000 in 2017 with inflation, while today they're available starting anywhere from around £32,000, and in general you'll find them around the 36k mark. On reliability, there are known problems with the engine, fuel pump, electronics, top mounts and the MAF sensor. It was around the time the first generation Mercedes A45 came out that the word hyper hatch became popularised by car media outlets and influencers alike, simply because the car was so ridiculously quick. Or with the following generation bringing another A45, Mercedes decided to take it a step further and created the A45S, in line with cars like the C63S and E63S. The A45S took the A45, added a bunch more power, and basically made the car the best version of itself, with that 2-litre inline-4 engine that has a twin-scroll turbocharger attached, which means it will put out 415 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, which is genuinely bonkers for a hatchback. Now, I have driven an A-Class AMG line, but not the A45S, and while I know I wasn't incredibly kind to the car, if you properly let AMG at a Mercedes, they will make something mental, and that's exactly what they've done with this car. When Mercedes made that first-gen A45, they were in the process of massively upgrading their A-Class offering, which was, in my opinion, well overdue, considering the previous generations were the ugly ducklings of the Mercedes lineup, and not in like a cute way, literally they were just factually ugly. But as with any ugly duckling, it became a beautiful swan when Mercedes made the upgrade, and this fourth generation carried on that upwards trend, updating the looks to be more reminiscent of the current Mercedes design language. They're not just fast, they're quite nice to own and drive, as the interiors are super nice on them, though I would question the quality of some of the materials used. I honestly believe Mercedes are making some of the nicest looking interiors right now, but they just can't seem to match that with build quality. But this shouldn't take away from the fact that this is probably the most hyper hatch available all in. Since the car was released back in 2020, it has dropped by around 9% per year in value, from around £53,000 to a new low of around £43,000, while they generally cost around £45,000. Those build quality concerns have reared their ugly heads with owners in some cases, with some people complaining about many warning lights and squeaks and rattles. I haven't found anything catastrophic though, which makes sense considering the car is just 2 years old. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. I wanted to stop for a second and just ask you guys a question, so let me know in the comments down below. What, in your opinion, is the greatest hot hatchback of all time? Like the hot hatchback, the one that makes every other hot hatch just pale in comparison. Let me know in the comments down below and we'll have a chat about it. I mentioned in the Civic section that some cars are the top spec of already sporty spec'd cars, and that an example of that will be coming later in this video. This is that car, the Renault Megane RS Trophy R, which is the absolute top spec of, surprise surprise, the Megane RS, and was built specifically to set the record around the Nürburgring for front wheel drive cars. It did the ring in a time of just 7 minutes and 40 seconds, beating the Civic by 3 seconds. When you put that into perspective, that is an unreal time, as is on par with the Porsche 911 997.2 GT3. Imagine you turn up to the ring in your GT3 just to have some yob in a Megane tailgating you the entire way around. Well, this isn't just any old Megane, it has a 1.8 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine that produces 295 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.5 seconds, making it the second slowest car on the list, proving that when it comes to driving on track, 0 to 60 doesn't really matter that much. Renault have a history of setting ring records with Meganes, as in 2008 they set it in the R26R, then beat that in 2011 with the RS265 Trophy, then again in 2014 with the RS275 Trophy R, before this one rocked up and set the bar higher by a further 14 seconds. Between that 2008 and most recent time, Meganes gained almost 40 seconds in ring lap times. When you see this car, you know it's built for track pace though, as it's probably the least practical car on the list. Bucket seats in the front, none in the back at all, instead a bar for torsional strength, optional carbon fibre wheels, and a bunch of other weight saving initiatives that have made it an absolute track monster, which is why it's a hyper hatch in my books. This is the most purposeful car on the list. When new, this Megane costed around £53,000 adjusted for inflation, which is mental money for a Renault, but today you'll find them listed anywhere from around the £38,000 mark, meaning they depreciated by about 9.4% annually on average. You'll mostly find them listed around the £45,000 mark though. Problems are actually very few and far between on these, but then not many people actually own them and none have done that many miles, so do know that when going into a purchase. Taking the top spot is one of the most hyped up cars of this decade so far, and I know we're only just getting into the decade and it hasn't been that great so far, let's be honest, but this car is, in my opinion, an instant classic. The Toyota GR Yaris has, in my mind, transformed the Yaris badge, taking what is often a cheap daily or a first car, which has shown some prowess with their T-Sport examples and making it effectively a homologation special, just without the real life rally car to back it up on release, though that has of course changed recently. It has the smallest engine on the list, a 1.6 litre turbocharged inline 3 that makes 257 brake horsepower, which gets to 60 in 5.3 seconds, thanks in part to the fact that it's all-wheel drive, and in circuit pack spec, it gets itself a nice LSD to keep that power hitting the road as efficiently and effectively as possible. GR is Gazoo Racing, Toyota's racing division that manages the World Rally Championship effort, where the actual rally car finally debuted in 2022. It's done amazingly well under Rovanpera's driving, as he's won 4 of the 6 rounds so far, not bad at all for the car's first season. The GR Yaris was built to satisfy these homologation requirements, which takes us back to many classic homologation specials of the past. If you want to see some cheaper examples of this, check out my recent video which runs through a bunch of them. But back to the Yaris, or Yaris if you're posh like me, it has received acclaim from across the industry, winning Car of the Year here in the UK in 2021, and getting literally almost every reviewer to say it's as good as people say it is. I just think rally cars exist to have homologation specials, and I hope the FIA force more manufacturers to keep making cars that are even closer to actual rally cars so we the consumers can benefit. To get into one of these brand new, they're simply impossible to get an allocation on, and they'll run you around £36,000 for the opportunity. But second hand, you get a 2021 circuit pack for around £32,000, meaning depreciation of just over 11% in the first year. Not too bad considering mileages are also generally low. These often appear to sit around the £34,000 mark though. Overheating all-wheel drive systems, which is a very rare issue, is the only major problem I could find so far, but then remember, it's a very new car. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to hit the like button. 1,000 likes with the same video again at a 25k price range. Comment down below to let me know what you think the best hot hatch of all time is. I think it's hard to argue, in my opinion, against a Mark 1 Golf GTI or maybe a 205 GTI, but let me know in the comments down below and we'll have a chat about it. Massive thanks as always for the patience, for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. I'll see you in the next one.